Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Teachers That Sparkle, the place where you can get those little pieces of information that help you be your very best each week in your classroom. I know that this is such a busy time of the year, and so I want to once again just say thank you for taking a moment to join me here each week and to share this out with other teachers that you know. My goal for this channel certainly is to spread as much knowledge and wisdom that I have gained over the 28 years in public education to all of those out there. I have to say, I was at a get together this past weekend. My very first assistant principal job, not even joking, was 20 years ago. In 2003, I took an assistant principal position in the smallest district in Harris County, which is the Houston area, with a friend of mine as he got his first principalship. And I never imagined that I would leave my original school district. I had been there for years and I was comfortable, and I thought that was going to be the place where I would actually retire. And as the transition from the classroom into a specialist position and then getting ready to go into administration kind of evolved, he actually wanted me to come on board with him to ensure that his first year was the best that it could be. And so I took the plunge, and it made so much difference. I have to say, I learned so many things, but what was so great about this past weekend is I actually got to get together with the teachers, the staff that were at that school at the time. And it was so strange because at first I thought, wow, and I have only worked there 1 year, right? So I was only with these people 1 year, and I thought, will they remember me? And then I started to think, will they really want me there? It was just all those things in your head, right? That we start to question and doubt. And when I walked up to the party, it was just like a day hadn't gone by, really. Everybody was so welcoming, and we started talking about great things that had happened that year and just reminiscing, and really enjoyed ourselves. So I share that to say, guys, sometimes in this profession, we find people that come into our life for maybe a season, but keep in mind, you're building relationships with people. This teaching profession, that's what it's all about, right? And one day you may have to reach out to some of those people for support or guidance, or just someone to vent to talk to. And they're going to be there for you. So just remember, always do your best in everything that you do. And don't forget about those personal relationships, because those are super, super important. All right, having said that, this week I want to talk about something that's going to sound a little bit silly, but I'm going to call this week's episode Surviving in a Successful Way. We know that this time of the year is so crazy busy, right? Everybody is tired. Even though you had a week off at Thanksgiving, you were so busy with your families and friends trying to just catch up. And I always say 1 week is nice, but it's never enough to get everything done. I always remember going home at Thanksgiving thinking, okay, I'm going to rest. I'm going to hang out with friends. I'm going to see family. I'm going to do this. I'm going to clean the house. I'm going to take on this project. I'm going to do this project. And I would get to Friday or Saturday of that week, and I'd go, okay, I only accomplished 2 things on my list. We know that the Christmas holiday is coming. We know that that's a bigger time period to be off. We know that we're all looking forward to that, just to have some rest and relaxation, and to still do those things that you want to do, maybe around your house or apartment, or maybe you want to do some traveling or whatever it is, not to feel so rushed. So hang in there. Number 1, it's coming. And number 2, the topic for today is really talking about how are we going to get to that spot and still be successful. One thing that I noticed as a principal was that a lot of times my staff would get so overwhelmed and so tired this time of the year. They were just kind of going through the motions. I know, even I had years like that, whether I was in the classroom or as an administrator. You're surviving, right? You get up each day going, okay, I can do one more day. I got this. I can do it. And then throughout the day, it feels like you're counting the hours down, especially as we get into these last few weeks. everything is so busy and overwhelming, and then everything is happening. For us, we always had December be that time of the year where, and this happened in 2 out of the 3 districts that I worked in, we did all of our observations that time of the year, at this time of the year, which personally I never liked. Just want to put that out there as a disclaimer for those of you who've been a staff member of mine. I didn't like it just because it was so crazy overwhelming at this time, but that was kind of the reasoning behind it, to keep everybody on task with what they're doing. So we were trying to get all the observations done, all of our meetings done for the observations. That puts everybody on a higher stress level because you're worried about somebody coming into your room and judging you. And that's basically what an evaluation is. You know, we try not to make those, or most of us principals try not to make those a judgment, but more based on facts and what you see. But, you know, as a teacher, I know even I felt like, wow, somebody's going to come in here and give me their opinion on what I'm doing with teaching. And then you have that meeting to sit face to face with somebody, right? And talk about it. It's also the time of the year where we always did end of the semester testing. And so it just seemed to be so busy, and we're trying to figure out testing groups and then look at data. And then if you're disappointed, then you're trying to, you know, scramble to figure out what you're going to do that's going to be different going into the second semester to get your data up. Or if you're on target, you're thinking, oh my gosh, okay, I need to keep pushing my kids. What am I going to do that? And then student behaviors, as we talked about last week, tend to be on a rise during this time of the year. And everything outside of the workplace is also piling as well. So let's talk about just a few tips. I have 3 of them for you this week, so that, and you can tell I like the number 3, right? 3 tips for you that you can implement in your day-to-day lives to just help you survive in the most successful way that you can. Okay. So tip number 1 is I want you to make sure that you are as planned and prepared as you possibly can be. Even if it means, and I got to a point in the classroom, and it took me until probably, see, I was in the classroom 4.5 years. So maybe in my 3rd year, I started implementing this, but I would pick one day during the week. And I shared this with one of my coaching clients not too long ago, one day during the week that I just prepared. We are staying after school as long as it takes to get things done. Now, for me, I liked Friday. I know I'm a little bit of a weirdie, but I liked Friday because of 2 things. Number 1, my daughter typically had somebody come over, spend the night on a Friday, or come and go have dinner with us or whatever. So she had someone to play with at the school with her on those days. Number 2, we always knew we were having dinner on Friday nights out. We didn't eat out every single night, but on Friday nights we met friends out, and we always knew we couldn't get to that outing until somewhere between 6 and 7, which made me realize that I had time from the time school let out at 3:30 until at least 5:30 to be able to get some work done. Now, what I did have to do is I had to kind of accommodate a little bit because I always had dogs at the house, right? So I had to get home, let the dogs out, and then I usually came back up at the school. In addition to that, I always knew that on Fridays, most people wanted to scoot right on out. And every once in a while, I'd head to that happy hour right after school on Fridays before going to dinner. So I didn't do it every single Friday, but I found that people were gone out of the building on Fridays, and it was uninterrupted time, because, you know, when you sit down to really plan and prepare and do work, something happens. Someone comes to your door, they want to talk, they want your help, whatever it is, it's an interruption. And so for me, I found that time was just some good uninterrupted time. And what I would usually end up being able to do is kind of plan out for 2 weeks in advance, at least fully prepared and planned for the upcoming week, and then a skeletal of the following week, so that the next Friday, maybe I wouldn't have to stay as long. Make sense? So definitely recommend picking a day. It can be any day you want it to be, but just kind of put that in your plan that this is the day you're going to stay. You're going to shut your door. You want to be not interrupted, even if you have to put a sign on the door maybe, and really get some work done. The second thing that I want to remind you is that we need to really make sure we're doing that self-care. I talk to you about this often, mainly because it's so, so important, right? But that self-care is going to be super important this time of the year, because even when you have the best laid plans, there are going to be things that happen that change those plans unexpectedly, right? However, this is what I always do say, and this is how I kind of approached every school that I started working in as the principal, because I was always going in and fixing schools that were struggling. I would tell the staff, we're going to make sure that we have solid systems, policies, and procedures in place, so that when things happen that are out of the ordinary, it's not like we didn't know what we were doing to begin with, so now we really don't know what we're doing. At least we kind of had a plan going on, or we really had a plan going on prior to that. And when a curveball kind of comes in, you'll be surprised that you actually have something to anchor it to, and it makes it not so detrimental to what you're doing. So again, being prepared, over prepared, really making that plan, and then making sure that you're balancing your self-care so that when those stressors hit, you feel like you're still on top of your game. That yes, they might be stressful for a moment, but they're not being devastating to your entire being. And then finally, and this one's going to be a little bit of a challenge, I want you to take the personal out of everything that happens in December. I know that that's a little bit harder. Take that personal feeling out of it. If someone says something that's offensive, don't take it personal. If a kid's behavior is completely out of control, don't take it personal. If you see your data from maybe an assessment, maybe your district does the same thing, or from your evaluation, and it's not quite where you want it to be, don't take it personal. It doesn't mean you're a good or a bad person. It's data. It's objective information that you have a benchmark now. You can make accommodations, you can work with it, and you can make improvements, okay? I know that that's really, really hard, because it feels like judgment, just like I was saying before. It feels like somebody is coming in. I remember my first year just telling me everything I was doing wrong and not telling me anything I was doing well. And I know some teachers right now that are going through this exact same thing. If you can take the personal out, even just a little bit, and think, okay, this is what was said to me. Is it valid? Could it be true? Pick one or two of the things and then work on them. This student's behavior is out of control. It's not against me. What's one or two things that I might be able to do now that I know it's not personal that could maybe help that student? This parent's upset with me. Let's look at it as objectively as possible. Instead of saying, oh, this parent hates me, I'm never going to be able to rebuild this relationship. Maybe it's just a matter of, oh, maybe there was some validity in why the parent was upset. Maybe they didn't handle the situation as well as you wanted them to, but maybe there's something that you can look at in that situation that you can improve on. If not, then you have to move on. Dwelling on these situations just continues to put you as the victim, just continues to wallow you in that stressor. Nobody's perfect, right? None of us. If you feel like someone is just maybe out to attack you or just trying to make your life harder than what it is, if you really truly feel that way, once you've taken your personal feelings out of it, again, ask yourself, is this valid? And if the answer is no, move on. It is okay. Not everybody is going to like you. Not everybody is going to agree with what you're doing. And that's that part that's going to really, truly later on make or break you, because you never know where you may be in the educational world in 10 years, in 20 years. You might be exactly where I was, walking into a brand new building as an assistant principal. I didn't know anybody, then lose contact with those people for 20 years, walk back into a reunion party and realize that you still have so much in common and so many great memories to share. All right, so just to recap real quick, number one, make sure you're fully planning and prepared and over prepared. Number two, make sure that you are taking the personal out of everything that you do. And then number three, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. because the better your health and wellness is this time of the year, the better everything else is going to be. I can promise you that. All right. I'm Sherry with Teachers That Sparkle, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. And I'll see you right back here next week where I give you another little piece of advice to help you sparkle in your classroom. Have a great week, y'all.